What's up, YouTube? Come back at you one more time. I want to talk about some things today, as I always do. And this is, getting a hustle, right? Having another way to make some money, whether that be a hobby that produces income or, a hustle that you're good at. Anyway, before we get started, guys, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe button, comment if you have some different hustles you want to place in there. But definitely, let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. So, I would encourage all of us, especially in this particular economic climate, to have additional ways to bring in some money, right? I'm not trying to say, that your hustle needs to replace your full-time income, because I believe in having multiple streams of income and, having multiple ways to get to the money, right? So I would encourage all of us today to find you something that you're good at, that other people aren't, and that they're willing to pay you for, or find you something that comes natural to you, even if it's not something that you're normally, that's in your wheelhouse, right? And what I mean by that is learning a skill, right? I think that all too often we get in the groove of things and, we don't want to put anything extra in beyond our 40 hours. And I come from a family where everybody had a hustle. They had some other ways of making money. Even if they were making good money on their job, they still got out there in the streets and they made some money. Like my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, which is for all my father's father, he was hustling. He bought and sold things. He bought low and sold high. One of the things he would tell me to do is, you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. And what that would mean is that you have to negotiate your profit when you're purchasing a product. You can't buy it for a certain price and then hope you make the money. You have to already know that, hey, look, this is what this is going for. This is what I can sell this for. So I need to be at this particular price point in order to make money, right? And that also gives you wiggle room, in case you need to, negotiate with someone. But it also makes sure that your profit is guaranteed when you sell. You're not hoping someone can pay you over the retail price of it in order to make that money. If you're out here buying things and giving away just to be in business, you're not a business, you're a charity, right? But also, that's one form of hustling. The other form is providing a service, right? Whether that is, some people might cut lawns on the side. Like the guy who does my lawn, he has a full-time job, and he does the lawn care service as he can, right? And that works for him because that's in his wheelhouse, and that's something he's willing to do because he already had the equipment prior to him getting started. He didn't have to jump out there and buy a whole bunch of equipment, so he's utilizing the resources he already had available. All right, so that's leads me into another point. When you're thinking about doing your hustle, look at the resources that are available to you. Things that you already have access to that either requires no money or very little money to get started because of either your knowledge, your skill set, or just the industry that it is. All right. If you don't have a skill set, you don't have a knowledge base to reference in order to make some money, then it may be your first step is learning a skill that's going to continuously get you paid, right? And you have to look at the world like it's full of opportunities, and sometimes the opportunities you may need to create, right? You might need to create your hustle. There's a lot of things come to mind. Like I said, you can do car detailing. If you're into cars and things like that, maybe you want to get into some type of car detailing, and maybe that might lead into something else, right? Your beginning point doesn't have to be your ending point, right? It's just getting your foot in the door, right? So if you're a car guy and you see how meticulously you put time into keeping your car together, it may not sound thrilling, but you may say, hey, well, what if I help other people get their keep their cars together? And this is for people that are looking to make extra money. If you're completely fine, which I don't think anybody's completely fine, I think there's always room to grow. There's always room to make some extra money and still be able to balance, your other priorities. You just have to, manage your time effectively, right? Because let's say, in this particular, scenario, let's say you are a car utility. You're like, look, I don't want to put a ton of time away because, I want to be able to spend time with my family. Then you might need to just do it for an hour a day, right? So that extra $50, $40-$50, whatever you charge. I mean, I don't know how much you would charge. It depends on your area and what other people are charging. But that extra about $1, you might put it in an hour or so, hour and a half to get that money, and that money adds up every day. So at the end of the week, you made $250, right? So that $250, at the end of the month, that's a $1,000. Now, when you start looking at it in terms of that, like, okay, what can you not use that extra $1,000 for just an hour a day, an hour and a half a day, right? So I'm sure, if anybody here could get an extra $1,000 infused into their budget, and they'd be able to do some things, even if it's not, paying off bills or anything like that. What if that's just your, fun money, right? Now you can go shopping and buy the things that you like without affecting your normal budget, right? So if you want some things, and that's what I really bring this up, because, I like to buy nice things, like most people. You want to have some nice things and be able to enjoy your time when you do go out. So what I do is I take my leisure time, I cut my leisure time a little bit, and I apply that to making some extra money, right? Some of us may need to go back to school, and say, okay, well, I don't want to work more than my 40 hours. I want to just come home and do what I do, but I don't make enough money. Then you might need to go back to school and learn a trade, right? So that your 40 hours can be substantial enough that you don't need to work any additional hours, and anything you do will just be a hobby that you might can turn into a hustle, right? Something that you do for fun. And I mean, you can do that now. Find something that's your hobby and make it profitable. You can definitely do that. Find a way to make money off of it. But I would encourage you, if you aren't satisfied with the 40 hours that the money that you're bringing in from your 40 hours, that you might need to go learn a different skill set and upgrade yourself. I've talked to so many people that aren't particularly pleased with the money that they make, but they're unwilling to put any additional effort into increasing their value, right? They don't want to complete that degree. They don't want to go to trade school. They don't want to do anything but complain about the lack of resources that they have. And unfortunately, it seems to be a necessary evil that some people are just lazy. The good news for you and I, those of us who aren't lazy, it doesn't require a ton of effort. It just requires minimal effort to really start outpacing people. Putting in the additional effort to, have something more, because most people don't even want to do the 40 hours, right? So, most people are not going to want to put in that extra hour a day. When they're off, they're off. They don't want to, do anything beyond what the bare minimum is, but they would like to have with the maximum. And they get mad at those of us who are willing to put that work in and have more out of our life. Say things like, and I think it's a balance, because I've watched some people, work themselves crazy, and the stress load tears them apart, or they're not able to spend any time with their family and their children, and therefore the family suffers for it. So I'm not on here preaching about you better put in 18, 19, 20 hour days or nothing like that. I know some people have done it, and I don't know how they did it. I have a friend of mine, he would get up super early every day, and he'd work his full-time job, then get off and do housework, and sometimes he would even train people all in one day. And he still found the time to, do homework with his kids, still have time to spend time with them and do things. I don't know how that brother was built. So not everybody's going to be like that, right? And so that's definitely not what I'm telling you to be him. But you can do a little bit, right? Because a lot of us come home, you eat your dinner, and you kind of just waste the day. You waste the rest of the day because, you spend time watching TV, scrolling your phone. You might spend an hour scrolling your phone, and a couple hours watching TV. And those couple hours that you're wasting, because you can watch one show, maybe watch 2 shows, but you don't need to watch 3 shows and scroll your phone for an hour. And that's 4 or 5 hours, and you say, "Oh, I'm unwinding." That you could take an hour or 2 from that every day, and still, have time to relax, before it's time for you to, put the kids to bed and, spend time with the wife or, the girl, or, just spend time with yourself. I think all too often we complain about the position that we're in and we're unwilling to make any changes about it, when making a change or, putting in the effort is not as really hard as, people make it out to be. Like I say, if you don't have the skill, put in an hour a day learning something. If you're on YouTube, and I appreciate you stopping by and watching my video, well, maybe watch a video, at least one video a day that may teach you a new skill. At least one. Depending on how long it is, you can watch a couple, right? Dedicate 30 minutes to an hour to improving yourself. And that even goes with exercise, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym." You got time to do some push-ups and sit-ups and do something in the house. It's all about being consistent and being productive with the time that we have. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and those of us that are successful, it's because they utilize the hours effectively, and they're productive in those hours, right? Some of us may be working in the office where, "Oh, I don't have a chance to work all day." Well, you can stand up and do leg lifts and squats. Calf raises and squats at your desk without any weight, just to keep yourself mobile. You can walk around the office, on your lunch break. You can do something that can bring some more productivity and improvement in your life if you're willing to do it. You got to be willing to put in the effort. But it's all about what you want out of life. I've met so many people over the years that say they want something, but they're not doing the necessary steps to get those things, and then they, are resentful of the people who have those things when those people put in the steps. They either went back to school, or they, were overachiever at their job and they made themselves a career, or they made wise decisions with their money that allowed them to prosper, right? All the things that you could do, like some people might have had a lucky break here and there, they might have had some resources available to them that, you don't have, but they still got the same 24 hours a day, and time is the most precious resource. There's no resource on this earth that's more precious than time. There are things that might be more important than time, but there's not a resource, whether that be money or anything, that's more valuable than time. Because think about it like this. Let's say, and people are like, "Oh, what about water or food?" If you got a minute to live, what does water matter? Right? So time is your most important precious resource, and without it, you're done immediately. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to, come on here and talk about some of the things that were on my mind about that. If you could do me a favor, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you can get notified of any new videos that I upload. I really appreciate everybody stopping by and listening to me. You guys have a great day.